fuel. Nobody will hear that apart from people watching this back. Hey guys. Hey Jim. Jim, I think you're going to really like today's one. I hope so anyway. Hey Fergus, you right, Dan? Hi, Christine. Another minute or so. Hello. Okay guys, make sure you sign in so that Sensei Joe can see you. Okay, I'll get started. Right, so if you read the description on the video, you should have a rough idea about what today's going to be about. We're going to have an introduction to Ushiro Jiyuwaza. Before we actually start doing anything, first of all, I think it'd be a good thing to explain what Ushiro Jiyuwaza is and what it's for, maybe to answer some questions or criticisms of this training concept, because I know some people don't like it. Some people don't like Ushiro Jiyuwaza. And I've got to admit, at the beginning, I didn't. So, first of all, Ushiro Jiyuwaza. So I'm going to assume that you are all familiar with the concept of Jiyuwaza, free technique, Jiyuwaza. And Jiyuwaza is an expression of our Kihon Waza, our basic techniques, applied dynamically and repetitively so that we get to see the students' library of techniques, the amount of things they know, and how well they can perform those techniques under pressure, how well they understand timing and distancing, how well they understand balance, how ingrained the concept of good form is. It checks a lot of things because of the nature of it being higher pressure than basic techniques. So why do we do that? Well, when you put somebody under pressure, they perform more honestly. Okay. And the other thing that we know is as somebody trains more and more, the more you do a thing, the less complicated it seems, and the less pressure there is. So a student who performs Jiyuwaza for years and years and years stops being under pressure, which means they may no longer be tested honestly on how much they can do. Hence, Ushiro Jiyuwaza is a way of taking this to the next level. So Ushiro means rear or behind. So we're doing Jiyuwaza from an opponent attacking from behind us. However, hi Heather, hi John. There's a bit of a formality to how this happens, okay? So the attack, if we have, let's say Bob here, the attack is delivered, me standing behind him and taking both of his wrists that are raised above his head. How we get there really is tricky to explain without a partner, so you just have to trust me, okay? There's a sequence that happens. The uke attacks by delivering a shomunuchi strike from front, which is blocked. The uke then grabs, moves behind, and will attempt to grab the second wrist. That is my mission as uke. Strike, get blocked, grab, around, grab. And I'm always going to follow my right hand. As with all the other Jiyuwaza, it's always with the same side unless the shite invites you otherwise. Hi Joe, hi Macaulay. So why do some people not like Ushiro Jiyuwaza? One, it's hard. It is really difficult to do well. I've got to say my love for Ushiro has only recently cropped up in the last couple of years, and I've been doing this for 15 years. It's a late game practice. The other criticism is it's not practical. Well, here's an example for you. Boxing. It's to do with these, right? Why do boxers skip? If you're only supposed to practice the practical element of a thing, why would a boxer do anything apart from striking? Why do they get on the skipping rope? Why do they train? Why do they run? Why do they do any of that stuff? To improve the skill set that surrounds what they do. Okay? If the only thing that you are concerned about is practical Aiki, fine. Absolutely fine. Aikido is perfect for that. But everything that we do leads up to that top point on the pyramid. If Goshin is up here, that's top point. Ushiro is part of the structure underneath it, and if you ignore part of the practice of our foundation, you cannot honestly and accurately apply your techniques in a practical fashion in every situation. Now, we're not just talking about exclusively rear attack. This is a very scripted setup. If you allow this to happen, you are a bit of a tool, okay? But by practicing in this way in basics, it forces you to learn and express these concepts in a much more difficult setting. You learn to operate without necessarily using visual cues. You rely on the tactile feedback. There's so many things you learn in Ushiro Jiyuwaza. So yes, it doesn't look practical. Yes, it's not directly equatable to self-defense, although there are some situations where I personally think it's almost identical. But without it, you are missing something. And if you deliberately ignore it, don't blame us for having a crumbly foundation on which to build your Goshin. Okay, so Ushiro Jiyuwaza are hugely important no matter what your primary focus on your Aiki is. Okay? Right, so this is an introduction. We're not going to get too in-depth with what to do here. what to do. That's the first big question. How do I even do it? What do I do first? Well, move. So that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at gross motor function, template footwork, for how you can find any technique in a Ushiro Jiyuwaza. Any technique, okay? So let's get this angle changed a little bit. Right. So from the uke's attack to here, there are approximately 4 different ways that the shite can react to open up avenues for different techniques. 4 different opening moves, okay? This isn't a new concept. We've been teaching this for as long as we've known about it. It's a really good, awesome template for getting you to access your library, okay? The 4 different options are labeled ich, ni, shomuchi, and katate ayamuchi, okay? The first 2, ich and ni, are the most common ones. The second 2 are rarely seen in people's Jiyuwaza, but when they're used correctly, they really bring a Jiyuwaza to life. It's awesome, okay? So, we'll be making the assumption that the uke will be grabbing the right and then attempting to grab the left. It is that assumption that will allow us to make these movements make sense. So, I've waffled on for too long, let's get started. Option number 1, the ichi style entry. So as the shite, we are here in Kama. Copy along with me, okay? So I'm going to be a mirror image. Your uke is attacking you, shomuchi. The first thing you're going to do is block with your right hand, okay? They're going to grab this hand, they're going to move behind you, and you will offer them the second hand for them to grab. Okay, so copy along with that. Block their strike, offer the second hand. Got it? I'm going to assume yes. Block, offer. Notice how both hands are just about shoulder width. One of my earliest memories of learning this was getting this wrong, having my hands really wide, and my performance was likened to that of amorous activities of a deep sea mollusk. I'll let you translate that one, okay? So don't go wide, don't go wide. Here, shoulder width, okay? Now we're going to add the feet. So you're blocking, offer. We step forwards and step backwards. It is that simple, okay? Offer, here, forwards, backwards. Ignore the hands, just the feet. Step forwards in a straight line, step backwards on an angle. Again, forwards, backwards. And notice there's a size difference in these steps. It's a relatively short step forwards and a much larger step backwards. Okay, the hands again. Block, forwards, and backwards. So let's explain what's happening. We need to get Bob on casters. So as the uke, I'm coming in here. I'm about to grab the second hand. This is when he steps forwards. This has the effect of baiting me further than I wanted, so he brings me across. He can then step backwards, going underneath my arm. This then gives him access to several techniques, in fact all the techniques. So here, block, forwards and backwards. That's opening number 1. Yeah, we have plenty of time. Okay, good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to apply an imaginary technique. So copy the footwork again. We're going to apply sankaja. Sankaja. So block, bait, backwards and grab. You're grabbing the hand that's grabbed you. Shift, throw into sankaja. Okay? Block, bait, back and grab, shift and throw. One more time. Block, bait, back and grab, shift and throw. So that is your template. Screen's gone weirdly dark. Can you all see me okay? Quick thumbs up if you can see me okay. I think there's a bit of a thing with the phone. I'm going to assume that you can all see me fine. Sorry guys, I hate technology. Weird. Okay, cool. Let's roll with it. Okay, so that was the entry for number 1 for itch. Knee now, number 2. So this one is less frequently used. Again, most people will default to the first option only. Number 2, the footwork is a little more complicated, so we'll look at that by itself. 3 moves. 1, 2, 3. Unless that's complicated, it's not really complicated, is it? 1 step, 2 steps, pivots. Okay? Now with the hands, block the attack. 1 step, so we're baiting them around. 2 step, it's gone over my head, so that when I pivot, I don't get caught on the arm that's grabbed hold of me. Block, step, step, pivots. Copying along, block, step, step, pivots. Show you from the side to make sure you're joining in. Lock, step, step, pivot. So this is the knee approach to finding techniques, and it's called that because it roughly equates to the Kihon knee style opening, where you would move forwards and then pivot underneath the arm like so, okay? Or the other way. So to put a throw on the end of that, we're going to use Ikajo Nage because it's nice and simple. I'll show you from the side. So we're here, we've blocked their attack, we've set the bait, we move forward and pivot. The arm is now stretched in front of us, attached to this hand. So we're going to grab it and throw with it. So step, step, pivot, slide. Block, step, step, pivot, and step. I said slide, didn't I? There's a cross step. Block, step and bait, step and pivot to get underneath, grab hold, step forwards. And don't lose your balance. So that's your knee approach to this technique. It's your knee approach, okay? So we've got 2 more. 2 more approaches, and then we're going to have a look, if we have some time, which we should do, at some aberrations and some weird things that don't fit the template, okay? So these next 2 approaches, Shomuchi and Ayamuchi, are really only possible from the wrist grab or maybe Ushiro Hiji, double elbow grab, okay? We'll assume wrist because it's most common and it's easier to learn the basics. Footwork-wise, here's the good news. Footwork, this is much, much, much easier, okay? So the uke is attacking in the same way, they're striking and they're going to try and get both hands. We are going to block in the same way. We're going to block, offer the bait, but as they move around us, we are going to pivot. And that will mean that they are in front of us and we can throw them. Now the reason why it works is quite simple. If I'm the attacker and I want to get to here, I have to travel this distance to get here. That takes a certain amount of time. Bob can spin the same amount of degrees in much less time because he's already in the middle, okay? So as long as he does his pivot, before I get here, I will be here and now he'll be facing me and ready to throw me, okay? So footwork-wise, it's just a pivot, but that's why it works. So copying along with me, right foot forwards again, block, bait, pivot, and see how both hands are high. Make sure you're copying, block, bait, pivot. So I'm going to do a little bit of myth busting and troubleshooting. Some people have problems with this because they step shift rather than pivot. Okay, make sure you can see my feet for this. So instead of doing a pivot, and that takes too long. Think about it. You are moving your body weight to a new spot and then moving it back again. That takes time, that takes energy. Mass is moving. It is significantly faster to just rotate on the spot, okay? I am sure there are variations and varieties of techniques where for some reason stepping and shifting works. But don't make that your template. Your template should just be block, bait, pivot, and both hands are high. And again, from this position, then you can apply different techniques. So we will apply a virtual nikajo. Okay? So here, block, bait, pivot. Hands are high. Hands are high here. Push down for the nikajo, back up, and throw. Okay, so that's your third entry point, Shomanuchi style. Block, pivot, apply, out, and throw for a nikajo nami. We'll do that one a few more times. Block, pivot, apply, and throw. That's your third entry point. Fourth entry point, Ayamuchi. Ayamuchi is the crossed hand grip, so right hand grabbing right hand or left hand grabbing left. So in this situation, if I've grabbed the right hand here, if Bob does the same thing that we've just done, so he spins but lowers his hand, then we end up in a position where I am grabbing his extended hand in front of him. This opens up several other techniques that actually are tricky in normal Ushiro Jiyuwaza. Things like Shihokazushi, which is a beautiful technique, but it's tricky to pull off from some of the standard openings. Doable, but tricky. So footwork-wise, again, block, bait, pivot, but bring both hands down, belt height. Block, bait, pivot, and down. So now what you've got is your uke standing here, and then you've grabbed your hand, right hand, and you're looking at them. Okay, so here's your configuration. Again, block, and down. Forgot the bait. Block, set the bait, around and down. So now you've got this grab, you can then turn it into whatever technique you want. So you could do ikajo like we practiced, you could do nikajo like you practiced. We're going to look at something that's, like I've already mentioned, trickier from the other openings. We're going to look at Shihokazushi. Okay? So from here, what you do is step, pivot, shift, and throw. I say it like it's easy. It is easy once you know it. So is everything. So is driving. Okay? Once you know it, it's easy. When you don't know it, it's tricky. So just take it gently. Block, bait, pivot, low. Take, step, pivot, shift, throw. It's a very, very raw introduction into Shihokazushi from Jiyuwaza. Block, bait, pivot, and low. Step, pivot, shift, and throw. Whenever I see that technique being done well, honestly, it makes me grin from ear to ear like a Cheshire cat. It's awesome. Okay, good. We're doing really well. Well for time. Okay, so we're going to recap. We're going to recap those 4 approaches, and then if we have time, which I do think we will now, we'll have a look at some variations and aberrations from the norm. Okay? So itch version, forwards, backwards, okay? Forwards, backwards, and the arm is now here in front of us. Itch, forwards, backwards. Knee, forwards, forwards, turn. Forwards, forwards, turn. There it is. And again, knee, forwards, forwards, turn. Make sure you're joining in. Knee, forwards, forwards, turn. Shomanuchi. Pivot, hands high. Pivot, hands high. Shomanuchi. Ayamuchi. Pivot, hands low. Block, bait, pivot, hands low. Ayamuchi. Hi, Pete. Hey, Liz. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be joining in, but I'm going to shout out the different entries. And I want you to try and execute the footwork, if not the handwork, that is correct for that entry. Okay? Oh, you guys are a little bit wonky. There we go. So if I shout itch, you'll do forwards and backwards. If I shout knee, you'll do forwards, forwards, pivots, and so on. Okay? I will be doing the movements so that you can see if you got it right. If you get it wrong, make me a cup of tea or something. I don't know, up to you. Don't get it wrong. Okay, so get ready with all the hands. Knee. And then reset. Itch. Reset. Knee. Shoulder. Itch. I'm itchy. Itch. Knee. Shomuchi. Knee. Ainuchi. You get the gist? Once you can make those entry points feel equally natural as any other part of your Jiyuwaza, then they become effortless. You can do them without thinking or deliberately choosing to do them or having to remember how to do them mid-technique, which is a huge waste of mental energy when you're doing Jiyuwaza, okay? You want to be thinking about other things like space and distancing, not how do I do this thing, okay? So with four openings, in a Jiyuwaza typically you're looking at about 10 moves. So if you find 2 distinct techniques from each of those opening options, you've then got 8 very visually distinct, technically distinct techniques. This is already going to shape up to be very colourful, very interesting, very rewarding Jiyuwaza for you if you can do that. Add in a couple of the other weird things that we're going to hopefully look at, and you've got a full and beautiful Jiyuwaza, assuming you do it, correctly. Okay. I'm actually going to go back to something I discussed earlier and repeat some points because I think we've had a few people joining since I talked about that. So Ushiro Jiyuwaza, being rear approach free technique, is not a popular concept even among high grades. A lot of them don't like it, and mostly they don't like it simply because it's difficult, and that's fine. That's a good reason to not like something, because it's valid, it's true. The wrong reason for not liking it is this one. It's not practical. And I know I've said this, if you're at the beginning, you've heard me say this. If you've just joined us, this is the point. Just because the result has to be practical doesn't mean that the practice has to be practical. Okay? The example I used earlier was a boxer. Boxing, as we all know, is about striking. Very bad boxing there. But we all know that boxers practice by doing lots of things. Skipping, running, and pad work, and sparring. Where does skipping come into the equation with boxing? That's not practical. That's what children do on the playground. And it's because there's something in the practice that helps them with the practical. Okay? So Ushiro Jiyuwaza, whilst not in itself inherently practical, this is not a piece of self-defense. This has concepts and theories, movements and sensations that are immediately translatable to Goshinwaza, to practice. Okay? This is yet another way of strengthening and structuring your foundation to then go up to Goshin, to practical self-defense, if that's what you're concerned about. Okay? And we all do this for different reasons. We all want different things from our Aiki. Some people are in it for self-defense. Some people are in it for fitness, social, hobby. It's just something different to do. Some people are really interested in the culture and their heritage. We've all got our own reasons for doing this. So do this, and this includes that, okay? If you don't like it, fine. But if you want a result, trust me when I say that this is part of how to get there, okay? So yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it feels weird. But do it anyway. It's really useful and it does get fun. It is really fun. Okay? But you've got to keep the form. So, we've got a few minutes left, so we're going to have a look at some of the techniques that don't fit the templates that we've already talked about, okay? Because there are a few, and they are fantastic fun, okay? The most popular one that most people know about and remember is a Sankajo variation. So, as always, the uke is going to attack in the same way, or attempt to attack in the same way. This time, as I'm attempting to go around this side, Sensei Bob would turn in the opposite direction. Wait. This is not working as I planned. So he would spin this way, and now before I can get there, he is now behind my arm. Okay? And the movement to do that is just a shift. It is really beautifully simple. So here with me, you block the same attack. You can even go as far as to set the bait, but rather than following around or moving forwards, we shift and we pass the grabbed hand into the waiting hand, and then we would throw with another Sankajo variation. Okay, so join in with me. Block, raise, shift and pass. Slide to throw. So that's your first aberration. I'm going to move fast because I haven't got much time, but if you like this stuff, then watch the video back, pause and replay and whatever you want to do. So that's the first one that I can remember, okay? So here, block, shift, and throw. The next one, which again is popular, I think this is one of Raj's absolute favourites, is a Kotegaeshi variation. So same block, same bait. Again, instead of going forwards or pivoting, so instead of chasing the uke, we're going to go off to the side. And what that does is it gets away from uke's area, but brings their wrist with you, which sets them up for a Kotegaeshi. So footwork-wise, if you've got your right foot forwards, and I'm probably going to be your mirror image because this flips the screen, you're going to slide your right foot out to your left. Then do a pivot, and then you would be set up for any kind of Kotegaeshi you want. So again, footwork is simple but weird. So slide out to your left, and then pivot. Hands, again, weird but simple. So from the block here, as you slide out, put the grabbed hand on the small of your back. Your free hand is just going to wait. And as you pivot, it will find the arm that's grabbing you. Just trust me on this. This one's kind of tricky without an uke. Okay? Or it's tricky to see what's happening. So block, slide out and small of back. Waiting, pivot and take. That is an opening for an alternative Kotegaeshi that is wonderful. It's really cool. Okay, got 1 more minute, so we're going to do one more. Again, if I'm moving quickly and you really want to do this, then watch the video back on replay and pause and restart and whatever you want to do. Or give me a call and we'll do a FaceTime. Okay? Last one is an awesome Sokumen Iramanagi. Okay? So here, you block, they're grabbed. As they are going around this way, we're going to put our arm against their chest. So now they are here, legs here. Make sure it's their chest and not their teeth. I've seen this one go wrong too many times. So here you blocked, back leg comes through, you spin and you put your arm against the chest, and here is your Sokumen. Last time. Sorry guys. So that was a very shallow, rough and ready introduction to Ushiro Jiyuwaza, the 4 basic opening positions and 3 different aberrations, the techniques that don't fit inside that sequence. There are more, but there's only so much time in a lesson. As I said, if you want to have more detail than just that, or you're struggling with some of those concepts because I was quite rapid, speak up, say something, ask the questions, and then either we can address it on another live, or we can have a FaceTime and we can work it out that way, okay? So, thank you very much, well done, os.